What is going on, everybody? That's Hit the Lotto. I'm Romo, your host. Evening there, Buzz. We are on episode 32. I think that's wrong. I don't know. I stopped doing count. I need to stop hitting the lotto so much. Um, looks like our one of our guests is connected, and the other one's about. Yeah, that's just him coming in here now. Let me just bring him in a mute. But you are all extremely welcome to the Hit the Lotto podcast. I'm your host, Romo, once again, and we are back. It's February, and I haven't done one in a while, and I figure may as well put something together. We got to put some content out there, and I again coming back into the studio and with us straight from New York, as well as my good buddy from Cork. Uh, Tonight's guests are an oldie but goodie, as Aiden Waters is back on the show, and I appreciate you being back here, Aiden. Thanks so much for coming back to the podcast, man.
You're more than welcome. It's great to be back. Feels like an eternity since the first one.
I know it's been that was you were in the first one, and then this one, right?
Yeah, I do remember the excitement you had on a phone call before the first episode, all fired up and ready to go for it. So yeah, it's cool.
And now I'm like half-hour notice, going live at 5. Live now, you know what I mean? Now it's very different. But welcome to the show, man. And also with us in the studio is our my regular co-host to speak, all the way from Long Island, New York, Rozz. Welcome, man. Welcome.
Hey guys, to the show. Nice to be with you. How you doing?
Doing okay, my friend. Doing okay. How's everything going? We all had a good couple weeks and recovered fully. I know last time we spoke, you were not well from COVID, and you how you feeling now? You feel like you're pretty much recovered from that, there, Rozz?
Feeling great. Absolutely. Excellent. Things are going good. Yep, absolutely. How about you guys?
Doing all right. Doing all right here. Aiden, what's life like down there in Cork, my friend?
Yeah, it's going well. It's going well. I am funny. I have season 3 of MasterChef on at the moment, or not MasterChef, Hell's Kitchen, cool. On the TV at the moment.
And I saw you had you had a little dinner going on social there tonight. It's like some burgers or something. Huh? These look good.
Me? No. Yeah.
Wasn't you?
Me. No,
there's somebody else that I follow that has almost a very, very similar thing. I thought that was you with the burgers in the cast iron pan. I was like, he's feeling it. Funny. No. There you go.
I mean, that does. I'll tell you that does. I mean, that's speaking of Gordon Ramsay. I mean, and this would be purely up to you there, Rozz. But what's the probability that we could get, perhaps the biggest named chef in that fantasy baseball league history by account of his TV stardom, and we can get Harold on this show, man. What's the odds we do that, me and you, and you can pepper him with some questions?
I think we could probably dig him up and get him on here.
That would be a funny show. That would be a good show.
I'd be interested to catch up with him. I kind of, talk a few times a year, but extremely briefly, usually just through text. But he's doing good. I think everything's going well for him. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. He's got a lot to say, so it's always interesting to
it'd be interesting to find out his story. Aiden, if you didn't, I don't know if I've ever told you, but one of the granddaddy of all those sort of cooking shows was what's the name of it? What's the name of it?
Top Chef was like probably one of the bigger ones. Yeah,
it's like MasterChef. Aiden, in you've watched MasterChef here in the UK and in Ireland, right, Aiden?
Yep.
So it's like that in a lot of ways, except it's much more Americanized. It's much more like
it's a TV drama.
You guys are gonna cook a barbecue for kindergarten kids. You know what I mean? It's much more. It's much less like the UK version, where it's actually the UK version. There, Rozz, you should actually take a look at. It's MasterChef UK, the professionals. These guys are like sous chefs at the real deal restaurants here in the UK.
I get it.
That want to be the rock stars, but the food is very different. The food that they're needed to present is quite different than what happened in. But the Rozz worked with the original winner of that show. So we should probably have Harold. See if we can get Harold to come on the show. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah, good guy for sure.
So Aidan, I initially wanted to talk to you and bring you on the show because there's other recurring things. We'll talk about the Olympics coming up, or Olympics going on and stuff. But it's rugby time, man. It's rugby season. It's the first post-COVID. Basically, not yet quite, but it's kind of how it's treated. The Aviva was full, and I don't know if I saw masks or not at the Aviva. Did you?
See who at the Aviva?
Did you see masks being worn by the?
Oh no, masks are pretty much gone.
So consider it post-COVID. International, rugby for Ireland, and they looked really good. Basically, it's a huge changeover. Some of the big names are gone. Well, not necessarily gone, but they weren't there for the first match. And they still, in a walkover, basically, over Wales. Is this team for real to win the Six Nations this year?
So, I suppose we found ourselves in this position a year before the last World Cup in 2018. And we went out and we got a Grand Slam. And we thought we were going to be world beaters the next year. And I have a fear that history is going to repeat itself. I could see us winning the championship this year, have a good winter series, and then get to another World Cup next year and fall flat on our face. But to your first point, yes, we were very solid. The biggest improvement I saw from, say, even since November against the All Blacks was the forwards. Those boys are big men that can move. They have the hands, and there's this ruthlessness in them that we haven't seen before in an Irish pack. So that's exciting. This is the first Six Nations since Stander has left, and I thought Caelan Doris did a fantastic job. And then we've got the bit of youth coming in with Hansen on the wing. So it's all looking very good. However, we'll win a Six Nations, but what do we do after that is the big question for Andy Farrell.
Yeah, and realistically, the biggest test for them. Obviously, the final week is going to be the biggest. It's going to come down to that final week, but the biggest test for Ireland in this Six Nations is coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I am more excited about this game against France in Paris than I was for the All Blacks last year. So this is going to be a real cracker of a game. I'm so looking forward to this one.
So, Rozz, just and any, I see Betty Boops out there too, to give you to kind of run down on it. So, what happens here is it every 2 years the Six Nations or every year?
Oh no, every year.
Every year. So every year, they have what's called the Guinness Six Nations Cup, basically, and it's a team rugby event, national team rugby event, and the Six Nations are Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England, France, and Italy. Those are the Six Nations. So it's a really it's a great event from an outsider point of view if you look at this politically, because you're not talking about a UK team. It's not Team GB like you would send to the Olympics. It's a Scottish team, a Welsh team, an Irish team that are and an English team that are in this, along with the French and Italy. So that makes up the Six Nations, and they have this tournament every year, and they have two different kind of events. One is the Grand Slam, and that's if one of the four British or former British colonized nations beats all of the others. And then there's also the Six Nation, which would be actual overall winner of the thing. So that's what goes on every year. And from the rugby point of view, because even there is professional rugby teams and there is professional rugby leagues, but from a rugby point of view, from my point anyway, watching it, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's better than any sort of professional rugby match. These guys are putting it all out there, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So I highly recommend, if you want to watch a good sport, watch Six Nations rugby, because it happens every year, and these guys, like, the stories are fantastic too. Like the coach for England hates Ireland. It's not even like it's not even a question that Eddie Jones, who is the head coach of the English team, hates Ireland, the Irish, everything about them, or at least he's so good at getting underneath the Irish skin from his pulpit that he just plays it like a fiddle. He plays them like a fiddle. So there's a lot of stories there too.
And he's
So
Australian.
Oh,
He's
okay.
Australian as well. He's not even English. So.
That kind of changes the whole thing. At first, I thought it was a British Irish.
No,
thing,
the coaching is actually. I mean, this is it. The coaching tells so much of the story. So the Irish used to be coached by this fella named Joe Schmidt. He was their previous coach, and he was a master. He was from New Zealand, and he really did wonders with this team, and he was so highly sought after that everybody was like, why the fuck does this guy Schmidt go into Ireland? Like, he could have coached anywhere for any team. He was in line to coach the All Blacks, and he kind of gave it all up to coach the Irish team. So then they follow him up with this fella named Andy Farrell. And Andy Farrell, help me out here, Aidan, but Andy Farrell really wasn't known for his he was known more for his for not playing rugby like in the national system, right? There's two types of rugby.
England.
There's two types of rugby. There's union, which is what we're talking about here, the kind of manly men's sport of rugby, and there's also, what's the other type, Aidan?
The rugby league,
which is very much like American football and rugby mixed together. And the two of them, I could tell you the difference, because when you stand at a regular rugby match, there's cheering and things that go on. When you stand at a rugby league match, there's cursing every other word out of people's mouths. They are just screaming at each other. So they're two different things. And Eddie Farrell comes from there. He comes from rugby league, right?
Yeah, big time.
He was an amazing rugby league.
Yeah, but I think at some point he did jump over to the union side, and I suppose he was in the background for many years, a defensive coach.
And
so
what's great about that,
for him.
Rozz, what's great about that is that his son, Andy Farrell, the head coach of the Irish national rugby team, his son, I don't know if he still is, correct me again, but his son was last year anyway, or over the last year, the captain of the English national rugby team. That's his son. Yeah. The stories are amazing. You can't make that drama up. You can't.
It sounds all very personal too, very close to home, and very.
It's a small. I mean, it's a small community. When you think about rugby, I'd say it's a very small community. You're talking about nations of 5 and 6 million that are putting together these teams. These are cities in some places. Yeah.
So, you're a football, obviously. Football genius. You guys love the sport. Making the comparison, total amateur outsiders look at it. Only, like I said, I've only seen that Rugby World Cup, which was awesome. I don't even know if the comparison is necessary. But is it just more violent because there's no more protection, no helmets, no? Is it a more violent sport, or where are those? You know what the question is. Yeah,
you're asking the right guy, because he's in the studio with us right now. He's played both sports. Are you continuing to play both sports now simultaneously, Aidan?
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
So then
thankfully, one season will conclude.
There's literally no one better in my life to answer that question.
I wouldn't say that. From a collision point of view, American football would have there'd be bigger hits, and as you know from football, those hits can come from anywhere. With rugby, it's more of a contact sport that you're never more than a foot or two away from a bit of contact. Now, it's violent, but there's a difference in the intensity of that violence between the two sports. From a fitness point of view, rugby is just off the scale in terms of fitness. Like, you are hitting somebody, you're jumping right back up onto your feet and looking for the next hit. There's no time for a breather in between the hits.
You're much more like that moving. Soccer for fitness. The game moves much more fluid and constant. Like baseball, football, those sports have a lot of, like you said, those pauses, those breaks. And it seems like rugby's like soccer in the sense that just the clock's ticking, it just keeps on going. There's not a lot of rest in between plays. It's just a fluid, constant thing.
Big time. Yeah. And then
that totally is a fitness thing. I agree. I mean, that's the fittest players. You look at these guys, you're running the whole for 90 minutes. How long is it? 90 minutes?
80. 80 minutes.
And it's just is there a halftime and that's it, or a lot of timeouts, or how's that working?
There's, if the ball goes out of the field through a kick or hitting somebody out of bounds, there is literally 10 seconds to get yourself ready to go. Ball is thrown back in and away you go. So there's very little rest.
If a guy goes down, like if a guy goes down, say even if he's cramped, like if he's just cramped or something, and he goes down on the pitch while the play is going on, like the guys go out to help him, but the play still, you know what I mean? The play still goes on. Like,
I love that. I love that. That's great.
And then, I find, and that actually brings up it's a huge kind of point. And it's a really good point between the two brands of sports when you talk about American versions of sports and European versions of sports, is that, most of those European sports that you would watch, or Irish, say, take it from an Irish point of view, you would watch football, soccer, you'd watch rugby, you'd watch Gaelic, two sports in Irish Gaelic, and they're all played the same way. They're all played where you play the game for a certain period of time, and you when there's stoppages of play, the referee clicks a timer, and then when there's about 2 minutes before the end of the half, the referee says there'll be 4 minutes of injury time. So depending on if guys get injured or ball goes out of play, all that stuff, he's like, there'll be 4 minutes of injury time, or there'll be 2 minutes of injury. So you could get like 4 minutes at the end of a half.
Right.
To keep playing, and that's games can be won or lost there, by doing that. They
can be, and what's big about that is I think it's extremely fair, because a referee or an official or anybody outside the playing field can't manipulate the game through timeouts or injuries or anything like that. Say you're paying for 90 minutes, but with injuries and all this stuff and clock wasting, you're really only getting 60 minutes or whatever it is because of those things that you talk about. So they're really giving you're paying for the 90 minutes and you're getting the 90 minutes. You know what I mean?
And there's no ads. If there's ads at halftime, you have ads, and then at the end of the game you have ads. At the beginning of the game there's ads, but while that half is going on, there's no ads on TV if you watch it from a TV perspective. Like it's
cool. I get it.
It's actually whereas American sports are more set up for those ad breaks to happen, for breaks for players to happen. Especially the NFL is the ultimate sort of TV game, right? In that regard, American football is, you ask a lot of Europeans about watching or coming to American football, and it's very niche here. Like, even though the NFL games do really well, the college game will do pretty good here in Dublin. This year, there's a new college game with Northwestern and Nebraska, I believe, playing each other in August. They do pretty good, but that's because it's sort of a once a year thing to go and do, but most of they don't like watching it because there's too many commercials, too many breaks. They're always stopping. Why are they always stopping? Keep going. That's what most of them say to me, that they find it boring because just when you get sucked in, it's over.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was wondering one other thing about rugby. So in rugby, baseball, there's all these games. It's everything is judged over a massive amount of data, 165 games in a short period of time, and it's condensed, and at the same time it's a marathon, but at the same time it's like on a minute-to-minute basis. Baseball, these guys sometimes don't get a day off, baseball players, during the season. And soccer players, there's a lot of frequency of games. These guys play quite often, less, but still play year-round. And I don't follow it deeply, but you can see there's many different cups and many different choices of things, and constantly an ongoing championship. These guys are playing all the time. Rugby, is it like football where it's 13, 14, 15 weeks and you make the playoffs, or is it one game a month, or do you play multiple games a week when you go to these tournaments? Are you playing like every couple days? How does that all break down? Because that's a pretty physical sport where guys get bruises. It's like hockey. These guys, it's such a physical sport, but they play all the time. They have more padding, but at the same time, they're still playing a couple times a week or whatever it is, aren't they? And that must just take such a toll because it's such a physical sport. So rugby in a tournament, how does that lay out?
Well, the pros, I think the one thing that makes this very interesting in the regard is that this is a national team thing. So this happens once a year for 5 matches for 5 weeks, and then it's over, unless there's a World Cup year. And if there's a World Cup year, obviously then they'll get back together to play in the World Cup. And if it's some years they have this GB Lions team, which is all of Ireland all have included into the Great Britain to put this team together to play in New Zealand against the All Blacks and whatnot. But for the most part, these guys play for smaller professional teams in Ireland. So Ireland would have I don't know, how many teams does Ireland have?
Four professional teams.
4 pro teams, and then they play in the same league with UK teams, right?
Wales, Scotland, and Italy. Yeah.
Oh, there's actually even
basically
not South African teams now.
South Africans as well. Yeah, I forgot about them. Yeah, forgot about their edition. So the season would run from September to May, give or take, and then they'll take a break for the 5 weeks for the Six Nations. But you'll have 1 game a week, maximum, absolute maximum, for that period of time.
So that's how many weeks would that be?
Oh dear. No.
What are the months? Aido?
Oh God, it's what? Shy of September to May.
All right,
it's just 7-8 months. No.
It's 9 months. That's a lot of. That's a
have to add it up. Yeah, it's about 8 months. Yeah,
I know. I can't ask him hard questions like adding. I know. Sorry, I didn't mean it, but it's a lot. I mean, they're playing weekly for a long time, and then after that they're going to their international teams and playing there. But that's weekly. They'd be playing there for the most part, and that's kind of missing you out. That's 4 or 5 games, but they've been playing a lot of weeks in a row on that. I mean, it'd be longer than an NFL season.
Wow, that's a lot
on 2 different teams now, mind you. Too, they're a professional team and then the national team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I imagine again, you can help me out there, Aiden. But do the rugby players on the international team, do they get paid? Are you there, Aido? Aiden, are you there? Aiden. That is amazing. That is amazing.
That's a great question. You'll have to put a pin in that one, I guess.
I think you came back. Are you back in the studio with us, Aiden?
I'm back. The app just crashed on me. My internet was actually perfect, but the app crashed. Fucking one thing over another.
I don't know if you heard me, but I'm not going to repeat the question, really. Do they get
It was
paid?
A really good question.
Do they get paid to play on their international teams?
Say that again?
Do the players get paid to play on the international teams?
It's kind of complicated. Short answer, yes, they do. There's a number of different ways of how they've kind of set up the contracts, but in Ireland, they're essentially, their contracts are with the national team, and they're essentially loaned out then to the club teams. So it's a little bit of a weird way. So the main guys would be the main players would be contracted through the national team, and then say the periphery players then would be contracted through their clubs. So it's a bit of a mixture.
All right, interesting.
That's really what that does is then, so it allows the RFU then to control when those core players play and don't play within the season. So they have full control of those type of decisions. The national team would also have some control on, I don't want to say what style they play with, but who gets the game time, what they should be focusing on, where they should play. Certain decisions like that may come from a national level rather than from a club. So it's makes it a little bit more interesting.
All right. So what's going to happen this year? What does the Aiden Waters crystal ball say is going to happen for the Six Nations? Are we doing this? You say we're going to do this and then we're going to suck. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd say we. So I'd say we lose to France on Saturday or Sunday, whatever time that game is on. I think we lose to France. We win out the rest of our games and win the championship. So that's my prediction. So it'll be 4 out of 5 wins and a championship.
Yeah,
and then after that,
finishing the week 5 in Twickenham with a victory over the English.
I think so, and I think I don't want to say Scotland, but I think England might beat France, and that's where we win the championship.
But isn't that still a great way? Isn't that still amazing for Ireland? I mean, such a small, to what's the population density up against Britain? Up against England, rather. England.
Jesus, sure. We're what, 5
I wonder
million?
what Scotland and Wales must be close. In again, see, I should have thought about this before. I wonder what the population of Scotland and Wales are compared to the population of Ireland. When you think about what they have to pull from.
If only there was a way of checking that. What's the population of Wales?
There you go, 56 million in England. I mean,
3
right
3 million.
Wales
3
is 3
million in
million.
Wales.
That's half of what we have here. And what's Scotland?
5.4 million.
5.4. So equal-ish Scotland, right? Equal-ish. So England should by far be dominating this field, if you think about it, right? For Ireland to do what they're doing and to achieve the nation of overachievers, you know what I mean? Is that enough just for them to do well this year and then like next year just be like, oh, we knew this was going to happen? We always had 2022,
Yeah, like I look at England and I kind of admire what they do in a way. Like, yes, they have the manpower, they've got the resources and the funding behind them to do great things, but like they are happy to suck for a year or two. Like they could go and lose 4 games in the championship this year and they'll get all the abuse from their media and there'll be all kinds of inquiries, and then they'll turn up at a World Cup and get to the final, where we just seem to be happy to win the same championship we play every year and then play terribly in a World Cup. So I would sacrifice 2 years of Six Nations performances over a World Cup win or a World Cup final appearance. Like if you look at Japan, they played in the last World Cup and they brought their team together for 6 months and they just went hard at it to go out and do well in a World Cup, and they did very well, and they've of course beat us in the World Cup and kind of screwed our chances. So I don't know, I'd happily lose the Six Nations or lose 2, blood a load of players and have them ready for a World Cup.
Yeah, that'd be like a dream come true for you, wouldn't it?
Oh,
just to get there, right? Just to get
there, yeah. Because like we can beat any one of those teams on our day,
on any given day.
Yeah, but when it comes to the World Cup, it's like this big black cloud comes over the heads of the players, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it comes true, my man. I hope it comes true. Now let's get on to the better sport. We got a Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. We got 2 very unique teams involved in this Super Bowl, and it should be like, even I think the latest lines I thought were only about 3.5 points. So this could be a good game. You guys paying any attention to the playoffs and what could happen in the Super Bowl? Don't speak at once.
I normally don't watch weeks. I normally kind of keep an eye on the scores, weeks 1 to 17, and then I get into it in the playoffs. So I've watched as many games as I possibly can. I am so excited for Joey and the Bengals. I hope they do it. I really do. I have a feeling he's going to do it. And what an achievement it's going to be. Like, fuck Stafford.
I mean, it's quite an achievement, wouldn't it be? It would be a Heisman Trophy, National Championship, Super Bowl, right? In 3 years. That'd be pretty impressive if he does it,
I'm sure the poor guy didn't have that bad, was it knee injury last year, midway through the season or whenever it was, like, and here he is now 12 months later, biggest game of his career after year 2.
Why are you saying fuck you, Matthew Stafford?
Just
Matthew Stafford gave his lifeblood to a city and was given the worst coaches for literally 15 years of his fucking life, and he sucked it up and he stayed there because they were making him mediocre, even though he knew he was better. And now you take him away from that, and the next year he's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Come on, that's impressive.
No.
Matthew Stafford deserves this. Joey Burrows is going to have plenty of times to win a Super Bowl and act like The Rock and smoke his fucking cigars in his fucking hot tub. He's going to have plenty of time to fucking do that. What Joey Burrows needs is somebody to punch him in the fucking mouth once. And now last week he was sacked 8 times and still came back. I have no disrespect for Joey Burrows. I'm just saying, in the scheme of things, you know what I mean? Matthew Stafford deserves this. I really want this. And that's just the difference because I'm the old school guy, I guess. But Matthew Stafford has played for some of the worst front offices and head coaches in the history of the game of football, laughed at year in and year out. And for him to go out to California and do what he's done on the team and get to the Super Bowl like that, that's impressive, man. I got to say, that's both guys, but that's impressive for the, and that's what's going to make this fun. Rozz, I know you're not huge into the sport, but have you been paying attention?
Yeah, well, I have opinions. I'm no expert.
Yeah, go for it.
So Stafford, I got to agree because I believe he went to Georgia, and I think when he was drafted, he was still like first round guy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
So expectations were high for this guy to fulfill this destiny that everyone he had earned and everyone expected him to have. And he goes to Detroit and he plays on those bad teams, but everybody knew he had the talent. So this to me just says, I've been traded to another team and I take him to the Super Bowl. They may have had what was needed to get there, but I was that last piece in the puzzle, which is quite an important piece, the quarterback. Yep. But it's basically saying I have the talent to take a team to the Super Bowl in the first year that I get traded there. And that's, nothing else. I mean, it's clear that he's come full circle and has, he's the hype. He's going to the Super Bowl. That's pretty big. So, and if he wins, that'll really make it a career because it's been like you said, a long, bad one. And then as far as the game is concerned, I think that the Rams, right?
Yeah.
Los Angeles?
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I think they're going to score more than a touchdown a quarter. I think it's going to be maybe not a touchdown and a field goal, but I think they're going to run them up. I think it's going to that's Mark
They put 30 plus on them.
There's going to be 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe there's going to be a field goal too, but it's not 1.5 scores. It's definitely not that much, but maybe 4 and a field goal or 2. I think they're going to beat them up.
Yeah, and I think that if you're, when you're talking about
that doesn't mean they'll win, but I'm just saying, it's got to go. Maybe it swings the other way, but they're going to come and score.
I'm with you there, and I think this is going to come down to the defense, and I think the Rams just have much more potential on defense to do a lot more damage on Burrows than the Bengals would on the Rams. In that, Aaron Donald's a beast. I mean, Aaron Donald is a beast of a human being. The Rams have a couple of reclamation projects there that pros that like Von Miller came from. If Von Miller has a Von Miller type game, just one. Von Miller's over the hill. Don't get us wrong. He's an over the hill linebacker. He had some amazing seasons, some literally Hall of Fame type seasons in Denver. If he could just bring that out for one more game, you know what I mean? He could. That could be something. Could be something there. So I think the Rams are going to put up points. I think it's going to come down to whether Burrows can the Bengals hang with them? Can they hang with the points because the Rams are at home, really? This is a home game for them. Now, I know that the crowd isn't going to be a homer crowd for them, but they're just going to be comfortable being in their own city for this game. And I think that's, that's only worth 3.5 points, like the bookies are saying. But I agree. I think that the Rams should bring this victory back. I would say. Who knows? Could be completely wrong, but who knows?
Yeah, that's what's fun about it. I really don't know. That's just that's what I think.
So another sport that's going on right now, and I was my interest of it is zero, yet I don't know why, because I always would have really enjoyed watching it, is the Winter Olympics are going on in China right now. And maybe it's an Irish thing where the Irish wouldn't necessarily have the Winter Olympics playing because, well, why? There may be one Irish or two Irish athletes at the events, but realistically, they would never spend that much money to have an actual commentating something, doing it. But B, like nobody's commentating from China, right? Everyone's they're all getting like secondhand footage. It's a really odd Winter Olympics that's going on. I think. I don't know does it feel like a normal one as far as the coverage in the States?
If I may, yeah, I was saying, I would say we've been watching it. It's on at night, later at night, and we're catching certain things and what we call it the parts of the opening ceremony. And so, not diving in too deeply, but definitely watching it through the past couple evenings. I would say it's industrial. That would be my term.
Really?
I don't know everything. Well, just very, it's kind of the cold and raw. What I mean? Yeah. And not as I don't know how to go into it, but I mean that's the coverage, and it's good coverage. And on the subject of Irish athletes, last night there was men's half pipe snowboarding, I believe it is, and there was an Irish athlete, a guy who ran the half pipe last night. They were talking about him. Very interesting.
Nice. How did he do?
Like I said, we just kind of thumbing through. You had the top 12 made it, and I don't know if he got in the top 12.
Gotcha.
They move on or whatever, but it was, I watched it for an hour or two. There's a lot of people and a lot of runs. So, anyways, it was, they're there from all kinds of.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Because I normally it would be that thing that in what I'd be back in the States that I would be like, what'd you watch last night? I watched an hour of the Olympics because it was on, you know what I mean? And I was going to see these sports that you never watch, and see what's going on. I would watch it. But here, there's just it just seems like a very muted interest. Aidan, would you be interested in the Winter Olympics?
No, like the Winter Olympics, no. The closest thing I'd come to would be like the Cool Runnings with the Jamaica bobsleigh team. That's the height of the knowledge. I'm sorry. No, I couldn't even tell you who's representing Ireland. I know that's awful, but no, I wouldn't. No interest. Sorry to put it down.
You know what's going on now, right?
No, that's all right.
You know what's going on now, right? Do you know what's going on now? Aidan?
What's going on?
Do you know that the Olympics are going on now? That's what I thought.
I know that
they're what?
I know that they're going on in Beijing. After that, no.
Yeah, they're actually going on right now. But like you, I don't know much about what's happening. But it's interesting, and. Is it just me? It's the first Winter Olympics where 100% of the snow was man-made. What the fuck was that?
Doggy, right?
Oh, that's Sky.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. You say like 100% of the snow is man-made, and that's what I mean by industrial. That's the feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That across the board. It's not that I get getting a feel. It's just it's on television. I'm watching it. So.
Yeah, no, totally. That's probably why I would have watched it too. You know what I mean? It was just interesting that I don't see the same. I don't see the same fervor here for it at all. You wouldn't necessarily see the same fervor for it. But
what's the highlight sport of the Winter Olympics? Like, so if we go to the Summer Olympics, you've got the 100-meter sprint is what everybody is excited for. What's the equivalent in the Winter Games?
I think that's changing, and it's ever changing and ever evolving because they kind of add and subtract certain sports that are popular or unpopular. But it's definitely gone from. It's always been a lot of skiing and skating, amongst other things, and a lot of those sledding events. But today, instead of like that basic or traditional sledding, it's the snowboarding is really the more extreme sports were injected into the Olympics a couple of years ago. And those guys really, they're the ones. That's the stuff that's really popular now. You know what I mean? Just on those are the guys that are on the Wheaties boxes and that kind of stuff.
Right. And is there ice hockey in the Olympics?
Sure is.
Okay, would that be a big event like Team USA gold medal event?
What do you think, John? It used to be. I
would say that the U.S. wouldn't have be able to put up the firepower against, say, like the Czech Republic. Some nations take their national hockey extremely serious. The Canadians still probably
I was going to say, I bet the Canadians are
U.S. beat. You know what I mean? I mean, when you talk about, the ironic that you would say that, Aiden, because it's like one of the biggest events when you in U.S. sports history, international sports history, was when the United States hockey team beat the Russian hockey team in 1980, and
which wasn't even the finals, right?
Which wasn't even the finals,
and that was a real underdog. They weren't like the U.S. team wasn't ranked to be that good to begin with. So it was a super underdog moment as well.
Yeah, so I think the story about American hockey is great, but I think American hockey just excels in that they own the NHL is played in America, so it's a mixture of these international guys on these teams. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but I wouldn't say the U.S. I don't know this year. I wouldn't know. But the other ironic events that are super popular during the Olympics, where you think that you have this kind of, it's basically you get down in the quickest amount of time with the fewest penalties, or you get around the track first, or you do. Then they have like these ice skating competitions, which generally are the belle of the ball. They're like the gymnastics, where it
pulls a certain crowd. It draws the television.
And it's extreme.
Ratings.
Well, it draws more. It would draw more. The gymnastics and the ice skating draw more eyes to them than any other sport would draw to it. Like when they're on, everybody's watching them, whether you like it or not. You just watch it for the event it puts on. But that's all. It's very subjective. That's a group of judges sitting behind a thing that are giving points for what you're doing.
Whether they're right with the mood or whether the stuff that you're meeting their criteria.
Yeah. So that's very interesting that and there was a great documentary I think on Netflix about the Canadian pairs team that lost to the Russian team, or they ended up tying. They ended up giving gold medals to both teams. And then I can't remember the name of it was Pelletier and I forget the Canadian team. Anyway, they were ice skaters, and it basically came out that the Olympic judge, one of the judges, said they were forced into voting for the Russians. Yeah. So they decided to give them both gold medals. Like it was they go through the mistakes that were made and stuff. But yeah, and the whole Nancy Kerrigan thing that we had in America, you know what I mean? The stories around it, the stories around it. But it's a subjective sport, if you will, rather than the likes of. I always like those. For me, it was the bobsled events, but it was more like the skeleton. Did you see those guys that go down
head first,
face first? Yeah. That's insane, man. That is insane.
You either live or you don't. There's no judging anything in between.
Yeah, you either live or you don't.
You can. Well, I think one is more of a judged exhibition, and one is really a sport. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. I definitely feel like that's what it is. Now, how about boxing, Rozz? Do you follow boxing at all anymore?
Nope.
So this guy, Jake Paul, right?
Nope. No, I do know him.
You do. I mean, you can't. You have to live under a box for your whole life.
He's more than a boxer. He's more than a boxer.
Right? Yeah. That's the question, right? That's the question. Yeah,
he's a brand,
and he became. I mean, the timing was perfect. Don't get it wrong. It was a perfect storm of conditions that sort of got him there. But he basically, he started with a YouTube channel, right? That's how this kid got. He was an influencer or whatever before they were even whatever they were. And basically, he has taken doing video blogs to this status level of like superstardom, and he's gotten into boxing, but he's fighting these show events, basically, right? That's what's been going on.
Exhibitions, he's fighting big names.
Yeah, like he's fighting against non-boxers.
Didn't he fight?
It's MMA guys. Tyron Woodley twice, right? Who else did he fight? Oh, he fought Floyd Mayweather, right?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, he fought Floyd Mayweather.
That's what I thought. That was my question. I wasn't sure.
But he doesn't. I guess a couple things, like I guess that they're not considered actual they're not sanctioned events because I don't think he agrees to take a drug test. I don't think that he agrees to take a drug. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong there, but I think I actually read that I don't think he agrees to take a drug test.
I only just want to know what drug is he trying to avoid testing positive for. That's really
massive steroids.
Steroids. Yeah, but I mean, maybe
steroids. Absolutely steroids. Like absolutely, he's gonna just those things are. They're enhancing him, and that's what he's like. Do it all you want, and he doesn't have to though because he's filthy stinking rich, so he's basically controlling. He doesn't have to, so that's fine. He's still going to get the pay-per-view buys. It's still out surpassing any actual fighting events, the pay-per-view buys that he's getting with these guys. So he's got a fight coming up in December, and he is fighting the brother of the heavyweight champ Tyson Fury. He's fighting his brother Tommy Fury, and they have, I guess the contract is signed, but apparently the contract had some crazy stuff. Like, for instance, Jake Paul said that if Tommy Fury knocks him out, he's going to give him $500,000 out of his own pocket as a fighter's bonus. But if Jake Paul beats Tommy Fury, then after the fight, the two of them are going to go into the whatever the office would be, the government office that he would have to do this, where Tommy Fury will immediately change his name to Tommy Fumbles. He has to change his name to Tommy Fumbles, and everywhere he goes, he has to represent himself on social media. Whenever he's interviewed everywhere, his new name is going to be Tommy Fumbles if he loses to Jake Paul. These are things that are in the contract. That's amazing.
This isn't just about a payday. This is personal.
It's absolutely hilarious, like where we've gone and what's going on, and it's just so funny. This is I guess Fury's father, who's been basically coming out now and saying this is fucking ridiculous. They're not fighting until December. It's not until December 18th this fight. You got a whole year of this. It's just it's mental where it's come to. The game, the sport. I guess it's not what it used to be. And even these fights are doing better than MMA fights and UFC fights are doing. It's pretty crazy where we're at, right?
It's on the same level. We had a couple months back, we had a conversation about celebrity golf showdowns and big money matches and how the watchability is. So you have like the sport, it's structured, it's rules, it's professional, the PGA, but then you put, an NFL guy or an NBA guy and a personality and a really great golfer, and you mic them and you do all those things. And boxing, this is the same kind of thing. These exhibitions probably were always big back in the day. I bet they were too, like the big guy coming through town and the town bully, for all everybody.
Well, yeah, it was even
gambling.
Yeah, or even it would be like the bear. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Wrestle
okay,
the bear.
great. Exactly.
They'd have an actual bear.
Exactly. That's exhibition shit. Public spectacles. Public spectacles.
Back in the Wild West, the old
days.
Who
wouldn't want to watch that? I want to watch it. I'll watch it.
Yeah, the man going after the bear.
Right. Well, come watch the man wrestle the bear. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, this is the same. And people, that's very. We all agree we want to watch that.
That would be amazing. That would be fun. That's what we're doing now. But we are watching that. It's called Jake Paul, and we can't stand him. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Now it's called Jake Paul, and you're like,
man. It seems to me he's very high energy. He seems very high energy, and he throws lots of big punches, and he looks like a boxer. I mean, or a fighter, whatever. I mean, he's pretty intense. Got a pretty high level of energy.
Aiden, you like your Rioja, right? Are you there, Aiden? Is Aiden petting his dog or something? Aiden, are you there?
I'm here.
Are you muting yourself?
I'm here.
Stop muting yourself.
No, I actually can't see my. I'm not called in.
I don't know what
I'm
you're
here.
talking
Anyway,
about, but you are called in. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I love you. All right, so
I'm gonna show you my screen after this.
All right, you can.
Rioja.
So Aiden, here we got great COVID news for us. Is that there was a study done. A new study has looked into how alcohol could help or hinder the body's immunity to coronavirus, and it's coming out that red wine is doing such. Before you go drinking more, whatever. Basically, it's saying that it was a study that was done by the UK's Biobank study, and basically what they tracked people and their health and lifestyle information. They tracked them, and they started in 2006. And somebody went into it and did a study of it, and the study has 500,000 participants, and 16 and a half ended up testing positive for COVID. So then the researchers broke down alcohol consumption into categories, and they found the team found that those that knocked back an above average weekly wine serving of red wine had a higher chance of not catching the coronavirus.
I'm sold. I'm in.
Sold.
More like
say no more.
It's actually, so that's it. I know I gotta say more now. The study says that the subjects consume red wine and white wine and champagne above guidelines. So white and champagne was working to above guidelines. So that's whatever the guidelines are. So they're telling you to drink more. So they're actually telling you to overstep into alcoholism. So
it's what you actually drink a week. That's the number.
Which is what you actually
drink a little bit
week.
more than what we recommend, which is basically what I'm doing is a little bit more than what you're recommending.
Exactly. Right. So they broke it down. They found that 2 glasses of red wine a day had a 10 to 17% lower risk of people testing positive for coronavirus compared to non-drinkers. White wine was 7 to 8% lower. But on the other side, beer drinkers or cider drinkers had a 28% higher chance of contracting the virus than non-drinkers.
Beer and cider. I think it's a demographic. I think it's who's drinking the beer and the cider. That's why
the irony. So that's exactly. So the irony here is that Wine Spectator came out. It was like, whoa, like they're all about the wine now, but let's look at this a little bit deeper. Like before you start giving wine
deeper than this. My goodness, wow.
Well, they say
down the rabbit hole we go.
Wine Spectator magazine is basically saying the same thing you're saying, is that it's correlation instead of causation. So there could be plenty of other factors. For instance, and are red wine drinkers much more apt to drink 2 glasses of red wine at home, where beer and cider drinkers are the ones that are going out to the pub? Thus, their chances of getting it are higher just by doing that.
Yeah. So a demographic, man.
Is it correlation, or is it causation? Is it drinking wine lowers your risk, or is it just a correlation between the people who drink the red wine and the people who drink the others? Yeah. So and they didn't do that. Obviously, they didn't do that study. They weren't expecting this when it happened. So they don't have those numbers. But from the basic raw data, drink a few glasses of red wine a day, folks, and keep yourself safe from COVID.
Yeah, I like that. It can't
this is
hurt.
Like all the COVID misinformation now. Pick the information you want and run with it.
Yeah, your choice.
2 glasses of wine a day.
It's all data. Just choose what you want to interpret it how you wish.
So that brings me ironically enough, that brings me into sort of the next sort of serious topic before we roll out of here. But the whole, and I don't think it is, I think it's kind of I think it's where have we gone? But the whole, so Joe Rogan is, as we know, a very famous podcaster, comedian, and he, was basically caught out from a video was put out of him basically saying words he shouldn't have said, racist words that he shouldn't have said, out of context. So don't get this wrong, completely out of context, just back and forth, just over and over and over and over again. And he's also been sort of, outspoken. If you don't listen to him, my opinion, but basically what's been going on is, the media is starting to attack, and the left wing has put an attack on him, and some, he's on Spotify. He has an exclusive contract to Spotify, millions and tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sounds powerful
for Spotify. And, other big musicians came out to Spotify and said, pull my stuff if you're not pulling him. And so then there's this whole big thing.
Tell me why.
This whole big thing. Well, I mean, their opinion is that he's what they're basically, it all comes down to, the science of what's going on with vaccinations, and they're saying that he's responsible for spreading untruths that are holding detrimental to society when he talks about some of the things he talks about. So what do you think? What do you think?
I only read a very small bit of this, so I have never listened, admittedly, to a Joe Rogan podcast, but
Yeah.
I get who he is. I know who he is and everything, and I just was kind of unsure where that was going, but I don't know.
My opinion. I mean, I'd love to find out both of your opinions on it before I get on. But I mean, my opinion is, like. Who's somebody already pulled out? Neil Young has already pulled his stuff off of Spotify.
I mean, this is a man who sounds like a fighter. Neil Young, he sounds like a fighter. Listen to his music, listen to his words. This man sounds like a fighter. And then it's Neil Young, and I'm not saying he's not a fighter, but we're talking Neil Young. He's the last living product of that era of people.
You're right. So here's the question I sort of have been. I mean, this is my thing. Is this about Joe Rogan? And if it's about Joe Rogan, then it's ridiculous. Here's the thing. Spotify is like artists. Spotify has spread the wealth. So artists that used to be these multi-platinum and these big selling artists now literally make pennies compared to what they used to make, because it was all about record sales. It used to be all about downloaded record sales.
Right.
So it was buying the album, buy the CD, buy the 8-track, buy the cassette tape. And the record company made most of the money, but we made our cut too as an artist. There was that cut there. Well, the cut now, because of things streaming the way they're streaming, the cut now is pennies on the dollar as to what it used to be. But anybody can make them pennies. So technically, we could put out music, get enough listens to it, start making a few pennies from them to do that. So it spreads it in that it does a little bit for the lower, but realistically, artists are pretty much completely unhappy, especially those old school artists, with how the distribution of wealth is playing out here with Spotify. And then to put the Joe Rogan thing on top of that, because they invested hundreds of $1 millions into him, I think that's what would spur a guy like Neil Young to pull out. Do I think it's silly? Probably. But does Neil Young give a fuck about? He's making no money anyway.
I don't think he's worried about it. I think it's about the message. It's about the message, man.
That's what I think. But I don't think he's going to. But the other thing is, I'm not going to get rid of my Spotify account. You know what I mean?
Well, here's my question.
Why is anybody listening to this fucking guy?
I like it too. Check this out. So where does it all fall? That's my only question. Is, so can he do it? Is it misinformation? Is it entertainment? Because other comics and people in other ways joke about things, and there's a lot of untruths. And I'm not trying to get into. have no idea, but just
I agree with
avoiding the nitty gritty. Is Joe Rogan just entertainment? And when The Simpsons or one of these other shows is politically incorrect or crosses some strange line, I mean, they've all cleaned it up a lot. I get it, and it's what's appropriate, and it's totally down. But at the same time, if he's just entertainment, how can
Yeah, this isn't really political for me more than it's it's generational bullshit, PC bullshit.
It's a question that it was not a statement. That was a question. So
I agree. Well, if the answer for me is yes, this is. I mean, my thing takes it even more than that. Who the fuck would take this guy, what he's saying, as some kind of Bible? You know what I mean? If you are, and the vaccinated, and I've talked to a few guys about this, recently. Like, we're at a point now with this COVID where it's proven. The numbers are there. And I don't care what anyways. You could back it up, but we could have a whole episode on it. The numbers are there. The vaccinations helped. The vaccinations. I think
it's a waste to have a whole episode on it at this point.
It's a vaccinations help. That's cool. Here's the thing: if those people won't listen and want to follow at this stage, ivermectin and Rogan, and that's what this initial thing was about, then let them go. Go ahead. Good luck. I hope you live. If you don't, I'm sorry, but the hospitals can handle you now because the rest of the vaccinated people are getting over the sickness at home. They're not in the fucking hospital.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Like, Joe Rogan is a comedian. Why are we listening? Why are people getting so upset over what this guy is saying? Do you hear half of the music lyrics that are out there? I mean, Justin Bieber is fucking offensive, for Christ's sake. I don't even
that's
whatever
what I mean.
he sings
It's just
about. That's
such a gray
offensive.
area of that.
Yeah.
You can't silence it because, and listen, there's the difference between that and boycotting and what Neil Young is doing. I don't know, but it seems to me more like it's a boycott. It's not anyone telling Joe Rogan he can't. Has he been told he has to change his ways and things need to change on his show? Are they trying to influence any of the stuff?
He has come out. He posted a video on Instagram, I think, and it basically said, "Look, he did say this video recently surfaced of me repeating the N-word multiple times, taken completely out of context. But I like I got to grow. You know what I mean? He's like, look, I've done things, I've made mistakes, I've got to grow. But this guy puts on a 3-hour podcast every week for hundreds of millions of dollars. He better have content. And Joe Rogan hosts The Fringe. Aiden, you listen to Rogan. Joe Rogan hosts.
Yeah, I'm just quietly waiting my time here.
Rogan.
I'm interested. Yeah, please.
Rogan hosts the guys on The Fringe. That's what he does. He wants that crowd. That's what he lives off of that crowd. He understands that crowd's mentality, and he is part of that crowd. That's fine, but he understands him, and that's who he's got following him. And then the opposite side is so upset. It's so ridiculous. This leftist bullshit is so ridiculous. But yeah, Aiden, what do you think about the Rogan controversy?
I'll preface this by saying I do listen to a lot of his podcasts, and since COVID, I was out cutting my grass. It took me a lot of hours to do so.
And who turned you onto that? Who turned you onto that?
I think it might have actually been Gus, was it?
It was me and Gus.
Yourself and Gus, yeah.
Gus and I.
And Joe, it was. I remember being just before COVID struck. You mentioned one of his episodes with Miley Cyrus, and I was like, "Boom! I'm in there. I got to listen to this girl." And it was a great podcast with her. It was just, the crazy girl that we think she is in the stardom. She's actually like a really intelligent girl, and anyway, getting off point. Going to the recent vaccine misinformation, from my own opinion, I don't think he was spreading any misinformation. I think, in fairness to the guy, he asks a lot of questions about the safety of vaccines and how to fight off COVID with your own immune system. I think what's happened here is, and we would have saw this in Ireland when we had like the marriage referendum and the abortion referendum and the likes. If you didn't go with the narrative of the majority, you were shunned and abused and all the rest.
That's a tactic, man. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but like in here, like in Ireland, like a few years ago, we had the marriage referendum for equal rights for the LGBTQ plus. And if you were anyway in opposition to that, you were bombarded with hate messages on Facebook to the point where my own mother put up something and there was war for hours. I don't know if you remember that, Ron, do you?
I do.
Yeah. We won't go into that. But the same then with the abortion referendum. So that minority that didn't agree with the main focus of all that, they were bombarded. And I think when Joe Rogan started to ask more difficult questions of people and maybe say you don't need a vaccine, people just latched on to this misinformation campaign. But in fairness to him, he had some CNN guy, Sanjay, I forget his second name, who's very
Dr. Sanjay
Gupta, that's the one. And I thought
he's their medical analyst.
Yeah, and I thought Joe Rogan was better prepared and had more information than Sanjay did. And I just thought the Sanjay Gupta came out of that looking a little bit ill-prepared.
But then he also, the flip side of that is he had the fella on when they were talking about the, what was that disease in children? mitosis.
Myocarditis.
Myocarditis. When he told the guy,
Yeah.
that the vaccinated kids were getting, and the guy was like, "No, you're wrong." And he was like, "No, I'm not wrong." He's like, "No, the ones who were unvaccinated got it at a much higher rate than the ones who were vaccinated." And he was like, "No, you're wrong." And the guy was like, "Look at the report." And then they brought the report, and he tried to lie about the report. On that episode, he was like, "Well, you never know what they're throwing at you. They can throw anything at you these days. And he was proven wrong. And instead of admitting that he was wrong, this is why I'm not going to defend Joe Rogan. Fuck Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan, like honestly, he's like Alex Jones. He's a step above Alex Jones. And I love listening to Joe Rogan. I'm not like, I listen to Joe Rogan, but fuck Joe Rogan and fuck anybody who's like this guy. He purposely brings on people to fill his narrative, and that's why he doesn't have the masters that are working on vaccines and the guys who, and very rarely does he have those, because they're not his buddies. That's not who pays his bills. So that's fine. But that's what I mean. I don't care. I don't care who he has on. He wants to have this guy Kramer on who claims that he invented fucking mRNA. And then everybody else who was involved with mRNA was like, this guy, we've had to deal with him for the last 20 years telling us that he invented this shit. Like, awesome. He ain't been working on it for 20 fucking years. No, none of us are taking any credit for anything. None of these people with the mRNA are taking credit for shit. The only people that are screaming down their necks are anti-vaxxers and this guy who's like, I created the fucking mRNA, and that what they're doing is absolutely wrong. Nobody else, you wouldn't know one person's name that was on that field. Not one. This guy Kramer comes on. You know what I mean? Like, why doesn't he have the others? Why does he do that? But that's because that's what makes Joe Rogan good. That's what makes people listen to Joe Rogan. That's why I like Joe Rogan, because it
reminds me of the old radio shows.
They smoke pot. You know what I mean? He's famous for having Elon Musk on when Elon Musk got stoned out of his gourd with Joe Rogan. This is what I'm talking about.
The crypto went through the floor. Yeah.
Aidan, honestly, it would be like people taking advice from Graham Norton. You know what I'm saying? And taking him that seriously. It'd be nice. It would be like taking Graham Norton that seriously.
No, like I said, I've listened to a good bit of stuff. I've kind of dropped off him a little bit now recently because it became too political, too COVID. But he's had some good. When he has his friends on and they're comedians, it's hilarious. I don't find Joe Rogan very funny, but when he gets people in, it's hilarious. And as for your man, Alex Jones, Jesus, that guy's difficult. But it's also very funny to listen to when he's trying to recite stuff in his head. And it's amazing.
Like it's train wreck television. It's train wreck radio.
Yeah,
you know, in that you want to listen to what these guys are saying. Like, and I like again, that's what I'm saying. I think it's entertainment. I think that people are, you have to be very careful when you call for, people to be censored. Because when you call for people like Joe Rogan to get censored, then you have, again, you have books being thrown out of libraries for reasons, and when you call for that stuff, it becomes this like industrial, like the Olympics. Life will be like the Olympics. It won't be very happy. It'll be very industrial because somebody else will be making your decisions.
You have to watch a little bit of this thing. I'm telling you. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's so funny. Well, it's just as an entertainment, or is it not?
Totally. So I got before we wrap it up here, you guys. You said you're watching the Olympics. You're watching. You binge and watching. Are you watching anything else there, Rozz, that the folks out there might be interested in?
Love that Pamela and Tommy Lee thing. That's fun
on Disney. I haven't watched it. Is it good?
That's on Disney. Are you serious?
It's on Disney Plus, man. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, my wife likes it. We watch it, at night after everybody's, settled in, and nice. It's good. It's fun. But if you like, you got to be into that era. But just if I can just take a second, I like when you're talking about the shows, the radio shows, and I was going to say it reminds me of, remember the radio shows before the internet when it was just really literally radio, and you had to tune in, and it was like, WBZB in Pasadena, and it's the Joey and Tito show. And you would wait for these guys, and every day at 3, and they do like the traffic, and they do the thing. And I wouldn't say the other shock jocks and guys rose to massive fame, but the radio guys were always great, and there was always a lot of controversy in those and what those guys said and how crass they were. And it's sort of like the grassroots beginning of what these things have really evolved into. You know what I'm saying? It's still the same kind of formula, but
yeah, no, you totally. I can remember, man. Now this dates, but I remember being a really young kid, and there was one station on the radio that still at night would play old time radio classics. So it would play like Superman, old Superman radio show. Do you remember the old Superman radio show, Rozz?
I know what you're talking about for sure. And the great part about it was that you had
Dick
to actually
Tracy.
just
It was your
tune that
imagination.
radio. Remember, just to get the just right, the antenna, and you had to literally physically, there was a fiddling in, a tuning in to get the just right and clear. You know?
Yeah, you would have to. Yeah, I can remember being real young and having and listen to that put me to bed, like an episode of Superman where you'd hear, and then Superman, we're so glad to see you. Yeah, now we've come completely in a 180 degree direction to what that was, you know. But so all right, so the time of day. How about you, Aidan? What are you watching?
I'm not really watching all that, to be honest. For some reason, I started. I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Now TV, and I've got the Amazon Prime, and I'm now watching Hell's Kitchen, and I've blitzed three seasons. Yeah, that's the height of it. I finished the Peaky Blinders on Netflix. That was fantastic. That's probably my number one recommendation for 2022. If you haven't watched it, Peaky Blinders. I think Killian
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's a great. It actually is. I just started the first season, and I was one of those who was like, I just didn't have time for it. And it's here and gone before you notice. But it's a very good program, Rozz. If you can get, it might be on Netflix in America.
I've heard of it. Hey, Aidan, I have a question for you. Have you watched, or do you watch The Chef's Table? That's on Netflix.
I have watched a couple
on Netflix.
I think I have watched some of the episodes, but
they're good too. I like those. They're good too. So if you're into cooking shows, that's a pretty good one too. Not as much excitement, but on some of them, but they're good. Don't you think, John? I like them.
Yeah, I think they're really good. My two, I got two. One is, and one of them was put up, I think if Buzz is still in the room, I think Buzz was the one who suggested it to me. There's a program on Netflix called Murderville, and it is a half-hour improv comedy, and basically every week celebrity guest detective and Will Arnett as a detective have to solve this murder, and it sounds dumb, and it is dumb, but it's hilariously funny. Like the second episode, the guest was what's the name of the running back that used to play the running back for Seattle there, Aidan? For the Seahawks. Come on, what's his name?
Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch is the guest detective in the second episode. He's fucking hilarious. It's so funny. He tries so hard to get into the improv of the whole thing. You know what I mean? He just tries so hard. And there's so many funny moments because it's completely wide open. You know what I mean? And then the celebrity has to figure out, of the three suspects, who did it at the end, and they're basically 50-50. I've watched the first 3 or 4 episodes, and the Marshawn Lynch episode it's very funny. I highly recommend it.
I bet it's gold.
And the other one is, I know you probably get some shit about this from some football players or listeners, but there's a movie out right now with Kevin James. It's an Adam Sandler movie with Kevin James, who's starring as Sean Payton, the former coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically I can't remember even the name of the movie that it is right now, but it's basically, if you like Little Giants, you'll love this movie. It's a real perfect movie for what it is. It's an hour and a half of forget life, and it's a feel good story. And Sean Payton is the Super Bowl coach who gets suspended for a year and comes back to hang out with his kid in Texas, and who's on a football team that sucks. And Sean Payton basically takes over the kid's football team and goes through it. And it's perfect. It's like Sandlot. It's a throwback to those movies. Bad News Bears a little bit, not really. I mean, those were amazing movies, but it's a throwback to those movies, and you don't get those very often. I don't think. What was the hockey one with Emilio Estevez? Remember that one?
Yep, it wasn't the Mighty Ducks. Yeah,
the Mighty Ducks. Movies that none of us want to necessarily admit that we liked when we watched them, because they're feel good movies and they're meant to draw an emotion and they're doing those things. But I can't remember the name of the movie now, and I'll put it into the ad. But it's Kevin James. It's brand new, just came out on Netflix. And I highly recommend it. It's a great feel good movie. It's a real father son movie too. So dads out there, can get into it and understand. Even former Super Bowl winning head coach of the New Orleans Saints wasn't the perfect dad. So it's okay for you to not be the perfect dad too.
It's okay. Thank God. I just breathed this big sigh of relief.
It's okay. When I heard that. It's one of those movies. Okay. It's one of those. It's okay movies. It's just okay.
I heard a good joke. Can I tell a joke?
Yes, please do.
I don't want to hand you guys. I'm not a very good joke teller, so I hope I get this right. But it's simple and quick. A son, a father, and a grandfather all get together for a round of golf, and they show up at the golf course. And the starter says, "There'll be a fourth with you today." And they look down the tee, and there's a young woman golfer playing alone, and they get introduced as you do when you play golf into your foursome, and everybody it's hellos and greetings, and so we'll play from here and there, and all the business of that goes on, the things that people do, getting acquainted in that moment, I guess. And the young lady turned around and just said, "I don't mind, I know we're playing with the guys today, the three of you. I don't mind if you guys use bad language or anything that's, just be guys. It's fine, drink and have a great time. Just don't ask me about my golf game, or please don't give me any tips on how to play." "Oh, sure, no problem." And no problem. So they play their round of golf, and through the day, they're having a great time, and they get to the end of the round, and they're on the 18th hole, and this young lady has the round of her life on the line. And it's for flat par or whatever. She's got a 10-foot putt, and she says to the father, the son, and the grandfather, "All right, I'm going to let you help me here because I think I need a little bit of help. Read this putt for me. Each of you read this putt, and whoever reads this putt right, will have a night of passion with me." So they say, okay, sure. So the son looks up and says, it's a little left to right, and you have to hit it firm. The father says, no, it goes the other way. This is like 2 or 3 balls out on the right, and just tap it in there real slow. And Grandpa's staring and smiling, and she says, "Well, what do you think, Grandpa?" And Grandpa says, "It's a gimme."
Yeah.
No?
Grandpa,
sorry.
Come on. Grandpa.
I tried. I heard it. I laughed, so I was trying. I hope that made any sense. But
that was fantastic, man. Aidan, thanks so much for coming on the show, Bubba. I really appreciate you coming on, talking some rugby. I hope you had a good time, and once again, thanks, and I'll see you real soon, man. You and I are going to see each other real soon for the first time in a long time.
Absolutely, it's been brilliant.
I appreciate having you on. Rozz, same to you, man. Seems like very shortly you and I are going to see each other once again, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, looking forward, buddy. Aidan, that was fun, man. Thanks. Looking forward to seeing you too.
All right, folks, that was Hit the Lotto episode number 32. Aidan and the Rozz. I hope you guys had a good time. Please show some love out there. Poachy, thanks you so much for the logo. Pet Fangs, thanks so much for the theme song. Peace and we out. Give me 2 number 3s, 1619. Cha-ching. Hit the lotto. Hit the lotto. Hit the lotto.
the lotto.